Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders are in one of those nightmare stretches that every NFL team dreads. A combination of brutal injuries, inconsistent performances, and now, potential roster shakeups that could redefine the direction of their season. According to insider reports, including one from Jordan Schultz, the Commanders are open to trading multiple players ahead of the mid-season trade deadline, including offensive linemen Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti. For a team that's already struggling to stay healthy and competitive, the timing of this openness to move key veterans feels like both a cry for flexibility and an acknowledgement that their current roster construction just isn't working. It's one of those classic NFL moments when you can almost sense a shift coming, not necessarily a fire sale, but certainly a recalibration of priorities as Washington tries to figure out how to get back on track. Wiley's name in particular jumps out, not only because of his reputation as a steady, versatile lineman, but also because of what his story represents. The 31-year-old veteran has had one of those journeyman careers that football purists love to celebrate. Undrafted out of Eastern Michigan back in 2017, he bounced around early, spending time on the Colts, Browns, and Chargers practice squads before catching a real opportunity with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's where his story really took off. By late 2017, he was part of a system that would evolve into one of the most explosive offenses the NFL has ever seen, anchored by Patrick Mahomes and coached by Andy Reid. Wiley carved out a niche there, not a star, but a reliable piece who could plug in at guard or tackle depending on the need. That versatility earned him several short-term deals and, ultimately, 2 Super Bowl rings. When he signed a 3-year, $24 million contract with Washington in 2023, it was supposed to be the veteran move that solidified their protection for the future. But the NFL moves fast, and just 2 years later, Wiley's role has diminished. He's played in 9 games this season and started 4, but his grip on a starting job has loosened as the Commanders test younger options and try to adapt to an ever-changing offensive identity. Trading Wiley might not be about dissatisfaction. It's about value. Offensive linemen rarely get moved mid-season, which actually makes him more attractive to teams desperate for stability in the trenches. The fact that Washington is open to dealing him shows they're at least acknowledging reality. They're not in win-now mode anymore. Instead, they're in survival mode, trying to navigate through what's quickly turning into one of the roughest seasons in franchise history. Nick Allegretti is another interesting name in the mix. Like Wiley, he's got Kansas City roots, and he's been in the league long enough to have real experience protecting elite quarterbacks. Allegretti has been a dependable depth piece, the kind of guy who doesn't get headlines but makes a team better simply by being ready when called upon. For Washington, losing him would thin their depth even more, but it could also clear some cap space and bring in late-round draft capital. Small moves that can matter big when you're trying to rebuild from the inside out. And make no mistake, after everything that's happened this season, rebuilding might be the only logical next step. That's because the injuries just keep coming. Every time you think the Commanders' luck can't possibly get worse, another key player goes down. The latest blows? Wide receiver and kick returner Luke McCaffrey and star cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, both reportedly out for the season. The team was already without rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, who had been one of the few bright spots in an otherwise rocky campaign. Now, Washington could be missing 3 starters heading into Week 10. It's the kind of attrition that kills momentum, morale, and sometimes entire seasons. Let's start with Lattimore. The veteran corner, a 4-time Pro Bowler, was brought in to stabilize the secondary, which had been a glaring weakness for Washington in recent years. But on Sunday night, during yet another frustrating loss, he went down with what's feared to be a torn ACL. According to Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo, the team will confirm the diagnosis with an MRI, but early signs point to a season-ending injury. That's devastating not only for Lattimore, who was beginning to find rhythm after a slow start, but also for a defense that was counting on his experience to keep them competitive. Through 9 games, Lattimore had posted 27 tackles, 7 passes defensed, and 1 interception. He wasn't dominating like the all-pro version of himself, but he was trending in the right direction. And more importantly, he was mentoring a young group of defensive backs that desperately needed leadership. Now that responsibility will fall to younger players like Mike Sainristil and Trey Amos, who will be thrust into much bigger roles than expected. The Commanders already rank near the bottom of the league in passing yards allowed, and without Lattimore, that number could easily get worse. Washington's secondary, once viewed as a possible strength, has become a glaring weakness, and it's not for lack of effort. Injuries, scheme changes, and poor execution have all combined to create a defense that simply can't get stops when it matters most. On the offensive side of the ball, the news isn't any better. Luke McCaffrey, yes, part of that McCaffrey football family, had quietly become one of Washington's most reliable contributors. He wasn't lighting up the stat sheet, but he brought energy, toughness, and versatility. Whether as a receiver, special teamer, or returner, McCaffrey gave the Commanders a spark. This season, he'd recorded 11 catches for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns, and had been carving out a bigger role in the offense. But all that momentum vanished on the very first play of Sunday's game, when he suffered a broken collarbone. The timing couldn't have been worse. McCaffrey was immediately ruled out and will be placed on injured reserve, effectively ending his season. Losing McCaffrey hurts more than the box score might suggest. For one, he was one of the few players consistently providing field position advantages through the return game. For another, he had started to develop chemistry with Washington's backup quarterbacks during Jayden Daniels' absence. Without him, the already thin receiver core will have to rely more heavily on younger, less proven options like Jalen Lang. That's a lot to ask for a unit already struggling to move the ball and find rhythm. The offensive line issues only amplify the problem. With Wiley and Allegretti potentially on the trading block, protection could become an even bigger concern in the coming weeks, especially if the team continues to shuffle personnel. And that brings us to the bigger picture. What exactly is Washington's plan? At 3-6, the Commanders are on the brink of another lost season. There's still time to turn things around mathematically, but injuries, inconsistency, and a lack of depth have all but erased their margin for error. Trading veterans like Wiley and Allegretti could signal that management is looking ahead to 2026 rather than holding on to faint playoff hopes in 2025. It's not a full teardown, but it's the kind of pivot teams make when they realize they're stuck in the middle, not good enough to contend, not bad enough to fully rebuild, but trapped in that frustrating gray area where hope and reality don't quite match. For fans, it's a tough pill to swallow. The excitement around Jayden Daniels' arrival was real, and early flashes suggested he could be the franchise quarterback the Commanders have been searching for. But injuries have derailed that storyline for now. The coaching staff is doing its best to keep things afloat, but as the losses pile up and key players hit injured reserve, it's hard not to wonder whether bigger changes are coming, perhaps even beyond the roster. The trade rumors might just be the beginning. Still, there's something fascinating about this kind of adversity. Every NFL team faces it sooner or later, but the way they respond defines their culture. For Washington, the next few weeks will test everything: depth, leadership, coaching, and resilience. Younger players will have to step up, veterans will need to stay focused despite uncertainty about their futures, and the front office will have to make smart, forward-looking decisions without completely losing the locker room. That balance is tricky, but it's what separates stable organizations from those that keep spinning their wheels. So here we are, a team battered by injuries, open to trades, and staring at a season that feels like it's slipping away. The Washington Commanders have been through this before, but there's something about this stretch that feels like a turning point. Whether that turn leads to a brighter future or another cycle of frustration depends on what happens next. For now, though, the story is clear. Washington is fighting to stay alive, reshaping its roster on the fly, and hoping that out of all this chaos, some sense of clarity will emerge. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. Rumors are swirling around the NFL, and honestly, it feels like the Washington Commanders just pulled off a move that could completely redefine the landscape of their defense. Sources close to the team hint that TREY HENDRICKSON, one of the most feared pass rushers in the league over the last few seasons, is officially signing with Washington. Now, before anyone jumps the gun thinking this is just another off-season rumor, the whispers are coming from multiple angles: coaches, insiders, and even players dropping hints on social media that suggest something massive is brewing behind closed doors. Imagine the energy at the FedEx Field locker room the moment this deal is finalized. The defensive front, which has been steadily improving but never quite hitting that elite level, could now suddenly transform into one of the most intimidating units in football. Hendrickson has consistently been a nightmare for quarterbacks. The guy has an uncanny ability to find gaps in offensive lines, slip past blockers with that explosive first step, and completely disrupt the rhythm of any offense he faces. If he brings even half of that magic to Washington, you're talking about a pass rush that doesn't just get sacks. It creates chaos, forces hurried throws, and essentially rewrites the playbook for opposing quarterbacks. Analysts are already speculating that with Hendrickson in the fold, the Commanders' defensive coordinator could finally unleash a system that fully capitalizes on speed, technique, and pure instinct. It's the kind of player that changes the mindset of a defense. Not just a guy who racks up numbers, but someone whose presence alone elevates everyone around him. Young defenders, mid-level starters, even veterans who might have been complacent, suddenly, everyone's intensity spikes because they're lining up next to a true game-changer. There's been a lot of chatter about the contract numbers, and while the financials aren't officially confirmed, insiders suggest that Hendrickson is getting a deal that's aggressive but fair, a contract that signals Washington's seriousness about not just competing, but dominating on defense. The buzz is that the front office is thinking long-term, aiming to build a defense that can consistently pressure elite quarterbacks in the league. And let's be real, in today's NFL, having a fearsome pass rush can make or break a team's playoff chances. Hendrickson isn't just a player, he's a statement. The rumor mill has been running wild with potential scenarios of how he fits into the Commanders' defensive schemes. Some say he'll line up on the edge in a traditional defensive end role. Others hint at him being used in more exotic blitz packages, moving around the line to create mismatches, and keeping offensive coordinators up at night trying to adjust. The beauty of Hendrickson is his versatility. He can play multiple fronts, adapt to different offensive styles, and most importantly, he has a relentless motor. No matter the down, no matter the situation, the guy is hunting quarterbacks. And in a division that features some high-powered offenses, that kind of relentless pressure could be the missing piece the Commanders have been chasing for years. Fans are already imagining scenarios where Hendrickson teams up with the existing defensive line talent, potentially forming one of the most feared front sevens in the league. Imagine him lining up alongside other pass rushers who have been quietly improving, and the collective effect could be absolutely devastating. Offensive tackles, guards, centers, they're all going to have to game plan for him. And in doing so, they might leave cracks elsewhere, giving linebackers and secondary players more opportunities to make plays. It's a ripple effect. One elite talent can elevate the entire unit, and that seems to be exactly what Washington is betting on. The whispers don't stop there. There's talk that the locker room is already buzzing with excitement over Hendrickson's impending arrival. Veteran players reportedly see him as a leader, not just a star, someone who can set the tone in meetings, on the field, and in practice. Young players, meanwhile, see the chance to learn from someone who has consistently performed at a high level in multiple defensive schemes. The rumor mill even hints that Hendrickson's presence might attract other talent, creating a domino effect where free agents start seeing Washington as a destination for defensive stars. And that's where it gets really interesting. The perception of a team can shift dramatically in the NFL when you sign a player of this caliber. Suddenly, the Commanders aren't just a team with potential. They're a team that could legitimately contend, and that changes how opponents approach every game. Every snap against Washington could become a chess match, with offenses trying to decipher how to neutralize Hendrickson while he's out there dictating the pace. Insiders are dropping hints that the coaching staff is already tweaking schemes in anticipation, planning creative ways to get Hendrickson matched up against weaker blockers, using stunts and twists to maximize his natural explosiveness. It's not just about sacks. It's about pressure, hurries, disruptions, and generating turnovers. One elite pass rusher can create havoc that stats alone might not capture, and that seems to be the ultimate goal for Washington. The narrative being built here isn't just about signing a big-name player. It's about redefining an identity. A defense that was solid but inconsistent could now become the cornerstone of the team's identity. And if the offense steps up to match that intensity, the Commanders could be looking at a season where they're not just competing, they're imposing themselves on the league in a way fans haven't seen in years. Speculation aside, the timing of this move is also fueling the hype. Right before free agency closes, teams are jockeying for position, making last-minute plays to strengthen weak spots. Hendrickson joining Washington at this stage sends a loud message. This team is serious. They've scouted meticulously, and they know exactly what kind of impact they need to make. Rumors suggest that there have been late-night strategy sessions, calls between coaches and agents, and even private workouts that confirm Hendrickson is comfortable with the fit. Everyone is talking about how this move could energize not just the defensive line, but the entire fan base. Imagine tailgating conversations where every fan is buzzing about the new Hendrickson effect and what it means for rival teams. The energy, the excitement, the possibilities. Washington is capturing it all with what could be a single, brilliant acquisition. And there's even speculation about the cultural impact in the locker room. Hendrickson is known for his professionalism, his work ethic, and his ability to elevate those around him. That kind of presence doesn't just translate to better play on the field. It translates to a more unified, driven, and confident team. Players feed off that energy, and when the team's psyche improves, performance tends to follow. Rumors indicate that the coaches are already mapping out scenarios where Hendrickson's strengths dictate adjustments to personnel, rotations, and defensive philosophies. They want to make sure that when game day comes, the Commanders' defense isn't just good, it's elite, dynamic, and feared. As the sports world watches closely, the chatter is only intensifying. Analysts are debating the long-term implications, opponents are recalculating their strategies, and fans are dreaming big. Washington may have quietly signaled that they're ready to enter a new era, one defined by dominance at the line of scrimmage, relentless pressure, and a defense that commands respect on every down. TREY HENDRICKSon's rumored signing isn't just a transaction. It's potentially the spark that transforms the team's entire identity. And if the whispers are true, then the 2025 season might not just be another campaign. It could be the season where Washington's defense finally rises to a level that can shake the league to its core. From the locker room to the sidelines, from game planning to execution, every facet of the Commanders' defensive unit is being touched by the anticipation of what Hendrickson could bring. The hype is real, the rumors are persistent, and the implications are massive. The Commanders may have just made a move that doesn't just impact their defense, but reshapes their entire trajectory, signaling to the league and the fans that a new, formidable era of Washington football could be on the horizon. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.